So I still remember when you interviewed me for about Google China, and at the time you predicted Baidu would beat Google, and I strongly disagreed with you. And I think, as history would tell, you were right. But interestingly, at Google China, the 4 years I was there, the most interesting product we produced were entrepreneurs.
Okay.
That more than a dozen of my staff left and started their own companies, most very successful, several near billion-dollar IPOs, and and it made me wonder, Google was a wonderful platform, and I was probably a pretty good mentor to make that happen.
Sure.
Why don't we do this full time?
Okay. So talk about some of the really interesting companies that you're funding today.
Our model is that we actually analyze the industry and pick the right industry at the right time. So 2 years ago, we invested in Android ecosystem.
Okay.
A year and a half ago, we made a bet on casual and social gaming. And about a year ago, we bet on specific social networking opportunities. And 6 months ago, we started on online to offline.
So do you see a trend from made in China to invented in China, and more of the original kind of innovations coming from China rather than just the Me Too and the copycats of Western ideas?
I think it's a little unfair to call all the successful Chinese company copycats. There are a lot of copycats. The best example are the Groupon copycats. I think any Chinese company that merely copies and does nothing else will fail.
Okay.
The successful imitators are those who copy, localize, iterate, and micro-innovate. Some examples are, Tencent's instant messaging is no longer anything like MSN Messenger. Baidu search is quite a bit different from Google search. And Sina Weibo is different, and many people would say much better than Twitter. If you ask me, do I think Apple or Google, there will be a Chinese Apple or Google, I doubt it.
Why do you doubt that?
Well, Steve Jobs is the product of a country that encourages following your heart, taking chances, and celebrating failures, and being different, think different.
Right.
And China just hasn't had that culture for thousands of years.
What are the gaps?
I think it's incredibly fundamental. I think thousands of years ago, Chinese bureaucrats were selected from people who scored the highest on the exams. So that created a culture of celebrating high scores. Chinese language is about memorization. If you're a 5-year-old Chinese person, as a Chinese kid, you'd spend all your time memorizing the 4,000 Chinese characters. So you're celebrating how well you memorize. So I think these things are very fundamental and will take not years, but not even decades, probably centuries to change.
Really? So the entrepreneurs that you're backing, are they different?
Well, the entrepreneurs we're backing, they are very similar to American entrepreneurs in wanting to build and own their business, in desiring for success. They probably work much harder than the American entrepreneurs, if you can imagine that. They probably
sleep in the office?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And and their desire for success is incredible.
Right.
And I think these are some of the differences. I think they feel more pride about user satisfaction and market success. Maybe less pride about being different and doing what they love and changing the world. And I think both are great, but I think you optimize in each culture differently.
How do you think they measure success? Is it by monetary values? Is it by
I think they wouldn't. I think many wouldn't admit it, but honestly, I do think they measure largely by monetary values and by the impact their products make on users.
They want to be the next Robin Lee?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Do you have any advice for tomorrow's entrepreneurs coming up in China?
Yeah. So the ones. I think it's really important to, first advice is don't think your idea will change the world, but understand the trend. That's much more important, because if you are going in an explosively growing trend, you just have to do a good job and it will take you to the top. And if you think, I'm in a flat trend, but I'm going to do something that will kill all the competitors, I think that's just going against the wind and not productive. the trend is your friend. The second advice is focus and simplify. The entrepreneurs are all smart and they all want to do everything. And they have a new idea every day, a new product, a new feature, a new market, and that slows everything down. The model to develop new companies, especially internet companies, is build something simple, target a very small number of people, and then experiment and grow from there. The lean startup process, for example. That's the second thing. And then the third thing is don't go alone. Don't go it alone. So many Chinese entrepreneurs want to be that big boss because it's very Chinese to be the big boss. Everybody is your underling. But in the road to build a startup, it's so challenging, lonely, and there are so many downers. And you want a partner who can encourage you and work with you and partner with you and help uplift each other to go through the troubles. And you also want someone whose skill set complements you and who have an implicit strong trust with you to really take it to the next level.
Where do you think the next tech breakthrough is going to come from in China?
It's got to be in mobile. China has that opportunity, not on the internet. It's too late. It's big now, but sort of the big innovations are taken. But on the mobile internet, that's where China has the largest population. And when you connect all of them, especially in large cities, where the things like location-based and we mentioned online to offline,
right,
connecting merchants to users, those create lots of opportunities for innovation. So I would bet it's going to be something related to mobile without speculating in more detail.
Is there anything out there that's really futuristic on the horizon?
Honestly, we look to today.
What's your outlook on serial entrepreneurs and their importance in the market, in the development of the Chinese market?
I think it's going to be incredibly important going forward. But looking in the rearview mirror, I don't think it's yet had a big impact. And the reason is China is only at the first generation of internet companies, right? If you look at the Silicon Valley, you'd see people who go from Fairchild to Intel to Apple to SGI to Netscape to and so on, and to LinkedIn, and then to Square, right? So you almost see a lineage of people fanning out and making big impact. In China, it's only had 1 or 2 generations, and I think we're beginning to see the fan-out stage. And I think as more and more Chinese companies go public, and people start to sort of the CXO team on the public companies and the executives, I think they would be ideal people to come out and start their companies. They're still in their early 30s, so I think they have a great career ahead of them. So I'm very optimistic about that.
And what about the impact of angel investors, which is another growing phenomenon in China?
Yeah, it's dramatic change over the last 2.5 years. When I looked at my PowerPoint slides when I first started InnovationWorks, I basically at the time made a claim there was basically no angel community, which was not quite strictly true, but almost true. But today is a vibrant community. There are some very famous angels in China, Bob Xu, Charles Xue, and so on, Lei Jun and others. They're doing a fantastic job. And I think part of that recognition is a result of InnovationWorks, because we are the institutional angel, and these are individual angels. And also I think it's very much related to the fact that you can start a company on $30,000 to $300,000 if it's cloud-based. And that's never been possible before. And that's an amount that's a little too much to ask from your parents in China, and an amount that you don't have as a recent graduate from the last 3 to 5 years, but too little to ask from a VC. They won't talk to you. So that unique opportunity to start a company at the lowest cost ever, but still too much for you to handle yourself, has created a wonderful opportunity for angels, individual and institutional.
So going forward, what's the next stage for InnovationWorks?
We're going to create a fund 2 that will include everything we do. And it will be a $300 million fund, and that will give us the resources we need to expand to Shanghai.